COLA, which you may or may not know, compares the living costs from Washington, D.C. to the COLA area. Locality pay is calculated a little bit differently, which is part of why we don't know exactly what the ultimate locality pay rate will be. So I know there's a lot of questions about that, and OPM can tell you more about how that works. The thing about COLA is it can go up and down. So part of what this legislation does is it freezes the COLA rate, which now, as you probably all know, is 25% in Oahu. It was supposed to go down later this year. So we're starting from 25%. It's frozen as of today, and during the transition, it'll be based on that frozen rate. So after the meetings in 2007, Senator Kaka with Senators Inouye, Stevens, and Murkowski introduced legislation that's S3013. It went through the legislative process. It actually passed the Senate, but it didn't make it through the House in 2008. And so at the end of each Congress, which is 2 years, so every time there's an election, Congress starts over and we have to reintroduce legislation. So Senator Kaka reintroduced it this year with Senators Inouye, Stevens, and Begich. And we were able to wrap it into the National Defense Authorization Act. So often it's harder to pass individual pieces of legislation, so we were able to convince them to wrap it into the bigger bill that was moving through Congress at the time. It was enacted in October 28, 2009. It covers employees in the non-foreign areas, including Hawaii, of course, and phases in locality pay over 3 years. COLA is phased out much more slowly in order to protect your pay, since you'll be paying taxes on locality pay, so you should expect to receive COLA for some time after locality pay is fully phased in. Because COLA is capped at 25%, we don't know what locality pay ultimately will be or will be in the future, but it's not capped. So it could end up being higher in the future. And it'll provide retirement equity for employees here and in the other non-foreign areas, and will prevent COLA rates from going down in the future. With that, I will turn it over to Chuck Grimes from OPM, who will present the rest of the details of what this means.
Thank you all for coming. We're gathered here to discuss COLA. Hope you're warm enough. That'll keep you awake if you get a little glassy-eyed. Think about how cold you are. I guess we're on slide 5 now. This slide shows you what the frozen COLA rates are. There actually was rules in effect, rules that were in process to become effective that would have reduced the COLA to 24% here in Honolulu. When the bill passed, and I like to think sometimes maybe when everybody found out that that rule was progressing, that helped with getting the bill passed and with the signing of the bill. It did get signed on October 28th, so we yanked that rule, and the frozen COLA will remain at 25. Now, of course, as locality pay is phased in, that COLA rate will reduce, but it reduces at a much slower rate, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Let's go to slide 6. Thank you. This bill covers virtually everyone that works in the non-foreign areas, that is Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, Guam, and the territories. It covers general schedule employees. It covers folks on special pay systems. It covers administratively determined pay folks. There is a provision for postal folks that's a little different. Do we have any postal people in here? Then I'll just skip right over that. But the intent of the bill and the way the bill was written, it is meant to cover anybody that gets a COLA. And as Lisa pointed out, COLA does not count for your retirement. So the point is to replace that with locality pay, which does count for retirement. So let's go to the next slide. The question always is, what is your COLA rate going to be in January? Right now, the rest of the United States rate is 13.86%. The bill specifies that the initial locality pay rate that applies everywhere for everybody covered by the bill is the rest of the United States rate. As of right this very minute, it is 13.86%. Something could happen between now and January to change that. It won't change it any direction but up. It'll either stay the same or it'll go up. And we won't know until Congress acts, or if Congress acts, if that's the case. And as a matter of fact, Congress could act after January. That's happened before too. So right now, the President had a 2% pay increase for federal employees in his budget. In August, he issued an alternative plan to limit our GS base pay increase to 2%, so he used up all the money. Yesterday, he issued an alternative plan for a locality plan that called for no locality pay this year. So right now, the increase in locality pay would be 0, so the rate would remain at 13.86%. But again, Congress may act, and if they do, we'll have a new number and we'll get it out to you. So the first year of that RUS rate, we'll divide it by 3. You'll get 1/3 of that RUS rate. That's 4.62%. In the next year, you'll get 2/3 of whatever rate is going to apply to Hawaii, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. At the beginning of the 3rd year, you get the full locality pay rate that will be applicable in Honolulu. We expect that Hawaii will be made a separate locality pay area. Alaska will be a separate locality pay area, and that the remaining non-foreign areas will be covered by the rest of the United States. Why do I say expect? Well, there are other actors that have to act in order to make that a reality. There is a federal salary council comprised of 6 employee representatives and 3 experts in pay and labor relations that makes recommendations to the President's pay agent. The President's pay agent is the Secretary of Labor, the Director of O&B, and the Director of OPM. That pay agent makes a report to the President on or about November 30th on what the locality pay areas ought to be. So there's a little bit of a process we got to go through, but since OPM is the staff for these groups, we expect that's what's going to happen. The takeaway is that right now there are separate locality pay areas in Hawaii. There's separate separate COLA areas. There's separate COLA areas in Alaska, but we expect that we'll have the entire state of Alaska be a locality pay area, the entire state of Hawaii be a locality pay area. The Federal Salary Council has yet to be appointed under the Obama administration, but he's working on it, and it will certainly be constituted in time to make the appropriate recommendations to the pay agent. Okay, next slide. We've talked a little bit about this, and I know it's going to sound a little repetitive, but it's important to note that COLA is not subject to federal taxes, including Social Security and Medicare, and retirement contributions, but locality pay is. But what you get for that is having it count for your retirement. It's just like the base pay you get now. You pay taxes and Medicare and Social Security and retirement contributions on the base pay you get now.